Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini-series with the Los Angeles Angels. And want to start off by thanking the Worldwide Scouting Department for a lot of useful input on what we should do. As we touched upon at the end of the last episode, a extremely talented free agent class. The five that I'm most interested in would be Spencer Strider, the veteran at this point out of the Braves organization, not looking for a crazy amount of money, but he did miss all of this previous season, and he's fragile physically. Among domestic players, the other one that's really interesting is Garrett Crochet, won 3 straight American League Cy Young Awards with Boston. They have let him hit free agency. He's looking for a massive contract, but certainly one of the top, if not the best pitchers in all of baseball at this point. The price point for Crochet is significantly higher at close to $50 million a year. And then there's 3 very attractive international free agents. Min-Jae Kim, a catcher who should be above average defensively. Good personality, it looks like. Going to draw a ton of walks, even though the rest of his bat is pretty average. Looking for about $13 million, and he's going to be 33 years old soon. Got some questions about his splits, and pretty significant splits here. He looks like he could be a very good hitter to a borderline excellent hitter against right-handed pitching. But outside of his ability to continue drawing some walks, he's not good against left-handed pitching, so definitely could be a platoon guy and could go with a right-handed hitter against left-handed pitching if we brought him on board. Then there's Min-Jae Kim, 27-year-old pitcher who looks like an absolute star, looking for pretty significant money, also at close to $40 million a year. But a 27-year-old ground ball pitcher who throws in the high 90s and supposedly trains hard from what we know of him is a very interesting guy to potentially bring on board. And then last, but certainly not least, is Yoshihiko Wakabayashi. Looks like a potentially outstanding shortstop. Excellent defensively, potentially excellent contact, well above average eye. His gap power and his home run power more average-ish, and he certainly doesn't have great speed. But if you combine outstanding defense at shortstop with world-class ability to get hits and borderline world-class ability to draw walks, looks like he could be very interesting. Peeking at his OSA rating doesn't look materially different than what we think. We think the ceiling of his batting eye is a little bit better. Gotten, as I mentioned, a lot of feedback from the Worldwide Scouting Department on what we should do. Several just suggest blowing up this current team, trading as many people away to free up as much money as possible, and signing multiple very expensive players to really change this team as we near the potential end of this series. Jackhammer Possessor, Moses Mann, and Right Slow all felt that way. Outside of that suggestion, though, there is pretty good consistency. Spencer Strider was liked by Crow Hop. Stanley Rosella preferred Garrett Crochet. The catcher, Min-Jae Kim, Noglegs, and Crow Hop both liked, while the pitcher, Min-Woo Kim, was top pick of Right Slow. But the guy that several of the aforementioned scouts and many others really think we should go with is Yoshihiko Wakabayashi, Avery Sham, Crow Hop, NS1 CLRK, Gene C, Tyler M, Moses Mann, and Noglegs among those who say that bringing on the shortstop is the way to go. And given that we've tried in recent years for some international free agents and haven't been successful, have gotten the suggestion to perhaps be a bit more aggressive and just meet Wakabayashi's demands right away, even though we have low scouting accuracy, with the number that he's looking for, with the fact that we've got an outstanding scout, and with the OSA ratings looking very similar to what we think. I think there's no question that Mr. Wakabayashi is a potentially outstanding player. So I think I am going to try a different tact here. We just had to do this, cut back on our scouting and player development budgets, at least temporarily. But that opens up enough money that we can make a bid right now, and I think we are going to do that with Mr. Wakabayashi. I haven't found any great options to trade away some of the more expensive guys that I was talking about last episode. It seems like a lot of the AI teams have put themselves in a position here at the start of free agency where they're negative money to spend. So pretty much anytime we're trading a player with a big contract, they want to send back a player with a big contract, which kind of defeats the purpose for us of trying to get money off of the books. So I think right now, for the time being, we're going to continue scouting up these guys, but I am going to make an offer right now to Wakabayashi. He's looking for 10 years at almost $44 million a year. He wants it front loaded. I wouldn't mind it being a little bit back loaded, but I think we're just going to give him the structure he wants, give him pretty close to the average money he wants, and see if perhaps we can lock him up before a bidding war develops, because presumably most of the other major league teams are in a similar situation as us as far as scouting and perhaps being patient. Doesn't mean that he's going to sign with us immediately. I think if we gave him this, there's a good chance that he'd sign with us immediately, but I just can't force myself to spend that much money on him. I've got to try to get a little bit of a bargain compared to what he's asking for here. And we've got the exact structure that he's looking for, but a little less money. He was looking for an average of 43.4 a year. We're giving him 40 for the first 6 years, 42 a year for the next 3 if he opts in to those, and then 44 for the final season if he opts into that. So a total potential value of $410 million, in addition to some MVP and All-Star options that he also wanted in there. So a bit less money, but still a pretty solid starting point. He says he's willing to think about it, so we're going to try to get the first offer out there to Swaney Wakabayashi and see if perhaps we can lock him up in the very early stages of this offseason. And we've simmed ahead about a week to December 4th, and we've gotten some feedback from Wakabayashi. Says he's impressed with the offer, looking forward to signing with us, particularly if things stay as they are. We'll let you know when we're ready, though. So supposedly the White Sox, the Twins, and the Mets are also interested. So even with our early attempt, it's possible that we end up in a bidding war for him. Still got a bit of a wait until we're going to get that scouting report on him. Expecting it to be about 2 weeks away. So hopefully we'll either have a positive answer from him over the next couple of weeks, or at least we'll be better informed if and when he tells us he's got an offer from somebody else and he wants more money, which is probably where this is headed. And some good news here on December 5th. Yoshihiko Wakabayashi is a Los Angeles Angel. So suggestion, I think, by both Avery Shayham and Noglegs to be really aggressive in trying to bring Wakabayashi on board definitely paid off. Now paid off for him as well, because we're going to be owing him over $400 million for the next decade, but think that he could be a big addition to our team. The Japanese media is very excited to have him on board in Los Angeles. I don't know that it did anything for our. It doesn't do anything for our fan interest though, which is definitely disappointing after spending $400 million on a very highly regarded player. Still have the low scouting accuracy on him. We'll know more soon. Hopefully, it doesn't end up being a poor investment. I think we're probably fine, but really excited to have him on board. But clearly, see, we've got no money left for extensions and only about $5 million total money available at this point, even after cutting scouting and player development. Still not. I guess I don't know for sure since it has been a little over a week since the last time I tried shopping some of our players, but I'm still not expecting there to be a ton of demand for some of the guys that we might want to move on from, namely Royce Lewis. Shop him again right now just to see what options are out there. I believe Lewis had some options where we can get his contract off the books. You know, Luis Perales from the Red Sox. Let's just dump Lewis to get more money. But other than that, well, there's a few other options that are less expensive. But other than that, it's basically taking back an even bigger, longer, and in many cases worse contract to try to get him off the books. So I think the key decision right now is, do we really want to go after one of these other players? The catcher, Min-Jae Kim, with the money he's looking for, would definitely be an interesting addition for a win-now team. As I noted, would be a huge bat against righties. Certainly not that exciting at all against left-handed pitching, given that he's got some pretty significant splits there. He's not quite as good defensively as either Baldwin or Flores, but still an above-average defensive catcher, brings a captain personality into our clubhouse, which could be helpful because right now would envision that Anthony Volpe and his captain personality is likely going to becoming a super utility guy for us. But we're going to have to do some work with Volpe, particularly in spring training, to get him to learn how to play somewhere besides shortstop to really turn him into a super utility guy. So a lot still to think about, but certainly having Wakabayashi on board is a huge step in the right direction. Hopefully getting this team over the hump and finally winning. The guy, I'd like to move on from Lewis. Duran is another guy that I'd like to move on from in a perfect world. But there's just not a lot of teams out there capable of taking on $20 million, even if it's only for 1 year. And you can see anyone that is willing to take his contract on wants us to send a longer and more expensive contract in return, and 218 batting average and a 299 on base percentage from these guys making $20 to $25 million a year is the best season last year of any of the options out there to get Duran off the books. So it seems like we are likely stuck with him for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. And while I'd like to get some value for Royce Lewis, we just don't need him at this point. So I think, and I don't love sending a good player to the Red Sox, but they will give us Luis Perales for him, who's making the major league minimum. He was outstanding in a very small sample size last year for them with a 0.71 ERA over 12 2/3 innings. But his ERA in Worcester was over 5.5, so looking at his ratings, I think he's certainly not a 0.71 ERA guy. 25-year-old is already fragile physically and not the greatest personality in the world. I mean, he is, with the stamina he has in a 4-pitch arsenal plus an awful changeup, he is a guy who could be a spot starter for us if we needed. And he's got one option year left, so he's not totally without value. I don't know that he makes our 26-man roster next year, but he's decent insurance. And like I said, most importantly, frees up a lot of money for us to do something else that's more interesting. Yeah, they can't even, there's just a lot of teams that are low on money. I'm always trying to get every penny I can, even on a guy making the major league minimum, like Perales. They'll keep $111,000 of his contract, so helps box in the Red Sox a little bit more as far as what they can do this offseason. And since they are one of the better teams in the American League, that probably helps us out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and complete the trade. Fans shocked that we lost Lewis. Players disappointed to see him leave. So fan interest, despite signing an incredible shortstop, takes a 7-point hit for a guy who was a utility infielder for us a year ago. And we definitely didn't get a 7-point boost when we brought him on board, but it is what it is. The fan loyalty is below average here, but that seems a bit harsh to me. As I've talked about in the comments with some of you, this is a team that started last season with 86 fan interest, won 102 games, had the best record in baseball before admittedly a embarrassing playoff performance, getting swept in 3 games by the Rangers. But it's still odd for the fan interest to have deteriorated that significantly, especially with the addition of Wakabayashi. But it is what it is. We've now got some more money to potentially spend. And we'll check in on what Min-Jae Kim is looking like if we're going for it. Ooh, he's now looking for 6 years at $12.6 million a season, though. Not a number that I love in terms of the number of years. We would really have to tear this thing down by getting rid of another big-time player to have any chance of being able to go after Min-Jae Kim or Crochet. Could definitely go after Strider, though. I don't love the fragility. But he's definitely intriguing to me. He's only looking for a 1-year deal now. Says the Yankees have already made an offer to him. I always like to bring pitching on board. I'm going to give him exactly what he says he's looking for. See if we can sign Strider to a 1-year, $11 million deal. Then we're not making any longer commitments into the future, but still hopefully improving our chances to win this upcoming season. And we've simmed forward close to a week, still no feedback from Strider on the offer that we made to him, and still closing in on the scouting reports on Kim and Kim, Okuda, who we already signed to a minor league contract, and Wakabayashi. Min-Jae Kim, as you can see, the potentially brilliant starting pitcher, signed with the Cardinals. Number not really that bad. $32.5 million for the next couple years, and then $35 million after that. So they apparently were very aggressive with him, just like we were with Wakabayashi, and they've now brought the excellent young starting pitcher on board. We're going to go with a cheaper, more fragile, older veteran in Spencer Strider, potentially. And we simmed forward a day and finally have a report on the guy that we're spending over $40 million a year on, Yoshihiko Wakabayashi. High scouting accuracy. Still kind of looks the way we thought he did. His eye a little further developed than we thought. Still excellent contact, incredible BABIP. Gap power and home run power kind of meh. Speed is meh, but the glove definitely looks real good. I was a little concerned when I saw that the OSA had that error rating significantly lower than we thought. But at this point, I'm guessing that our scout is the one who is more accurate. At least I hope so. And we've gotten to the start of the winter meetings. Finally, some positive feedback from Spencer Strider. We offered him $11 million for 1 year. It does sound like says he likes our offer, but supposedly the White Sox and the Athletics also involved, and he may be looking for 3 years now. So not convinced this is going to go the way that we want it to. Did also just get the scouting report on Min-Jae Kim. Looks pretty similar to the way that we thought he looked. Definitely feel real good about playing him against right-handed pitching. He's down to 4 years at $11.2 million a season. Says he wants us to outbid the Astros. I may have to just strip back scouting and player development further to at least make this something we can think about over the near term. I don't love doing this when we've got guys in the development lab. I'm honestly not 100% sure how it works when you're in the off season and you can lower these budgets. Probably should work that when this budget gets lower, our chances of success in the development lab get lower with it. You can see we've only got 4 guys on track at this point, and Christian Scott is struggling with his secondary pitch improvement. Still haven't gotten those midterm progress reports yet. There's part of me that wants to go all in on the catcher too. You only live once, right? And Kim claims to have an offer from the Astros. We are going to give him exactly what he's asking for here. I'm not convinced we're going to end up with Strider. So if we don't end up with both of these guys, hopefully we'll be able to boost our scouting and player development back up. If not, we're going to have to get a little more creative in the trade market. The reason we'll have to get a little more creative is that our 2 catchers right now on the roster are Baldwin and Flores, and they're both making the major league minimum. So there's not really any huge incentive for us to trade either of them away since they both have minor league options and they're not making a ton of money. Gives us more depth if we have some injuries, although certainly we're hoping if we bring a guy like Kim on board that he's not going to be getting hurt. But we'll see what happens. We're in the winter meetings now. Would love to get some of these decisions wrapped up relatively soon. Then we can kind of pivot and maybe look to make some more trades to clear up some more money on our roster once we kind of know whether we get 1, 2, or 0 of the pretty significant free agents we've made offers to in Strider and Kim signed. And Kim says he likes our offer, and as expected, or I can't say as expected, but as suspected, Strider looking for more money. The Mets willing to trade us Juan Soto for Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think with Guerrero Jr. making a lot less and being locked up for a lot less years and being younger and coming off of finally a really strong season with us, I don't know that we want to do that. Strider still says he's only looking for 1 year, though. I'm going to get greedy. I'm going to give him exactly what he's looking for 1 more year. If he comes back again, we move on. But we're kind of going all in at this point. And as we get to the end of the winter meetings, Spencer Strider once again saying he wants more. At this point, I think he's probably just using us. $14.4 million for 1 year. Says he's got another offer from the Yankees. He's fragile. He's on the wrong side of 30. Could certainly help us, but doesn't seem like he really wants to sign with us with the way he keeps coming back to us and says that he only wants more money and for 1 year, when supposedly his rumored demand is for $11.6 million over 3 years. I think he kind of wants to take the Yankees' money. And I think at this point I'm inclined to let him do it. And we're headed towards the Rule 5 draft in just a few days. We did add a couple of guys to our roster. Alton Davis II, who was our 5th-round draft pick in 2025, has only made it up to Double-A, but he was pretty effective there this year in half a season before he suffered a partially torn labrum. Don't necessarily view him being a big-time prospect for us this year, but we've lost a lot of pitchers over the last year or so to guys who have just aged out of their option years and we've moved on from, so can't hurt to have him in the mix. Similar situation with Josh Gross. We picked him up in a trade with the Yankees about 2 years ago. Also coming off of an injury that ended his season early, although it was still a pretty full season. Late promotion to Triple-A for him, where he was 1-1 with a 5.29 ERA. Another guy who is probably a 5th starter in a best-case scenario, but protecting him does give us a little more organizational depth, which at this point is what we're looking for. Still have a couple spots open, hoping that we'll get Kim signed. You never know if Strider was bluffing us and he'll come back. I kind of doubt that was the case. Don't think we're going to be particularly active picking up guys in the Rule 5, though, given how strong I think our Major League roster is looking right now. And we made it to the Rule 5, still trying to sign some guys to minor league contracts. Strider, haven't followed up with him, so he's still looking for more money, and Kim hasn't given us any feedback other than that he favored the offer that we made to him a few weeks ago. I spent a little time offline looking at the options in the Rule 5 draft. Definitely don't think we're going to be picking anybody, so I think it's just a matter of how many guys we end up losing. I don't think we've got too many particularly interesting players out there. I think it'll be 2 or 3 at most if I had to guess, but we'll find out shortly. And we only lost one guy in the Rule 5 draft. Was a youngster, 21-year-old Jose Camacho, first baseman. Looks like he could be a acceptable major league bat with a below average-ish glove, not a ton of speed. Hit .281 with 17 homers and 56 ribbies last year in high A ball for us, but I definitely didn't view him as one of the top prospects in the organization, so we were willing to take the risk that we'd lose him, and the Blue Jays took us up on that risk. And we've got to our mid-program review. 5 guys on track, actually. Jake Riley working on control, Andres Rodriguez on gap power, Sean Gamble on bat speed, Tyler Koopman on control, and Mike Scott on control on target. Unfortunately, Christian Scott is still struggling with that secondary pitch development program. He's just barely struggling, though. So I think I'm not going to make any changes. It's really the youngest guys who are having the most success in the lab this time. Some of the more established guys not as successful. But I can with that money. Ooh, wait, actually, we got a lot of money off the board. Does that mean that I missed that? No, he still favors the offer. Okay, that's good. I don't know how. Oh, yeah, it wasn't the money this year. It was the money available for extensions that I had to play around with. So I'm not going to. I'd like to get some money back into player development, but right now it looks like I can only kind of get another $2 million in there. Apparently it didn't even like that number. All right, so we'll put another $1 million in there for the time being. Hopefully we'll hear from Kim relatively soon. Might as well request another scouting report on him since we made him a pretty big offer, but likely he'll have made his decision before we get that back. And good news, we've got the catcher Min-Jae Kim on board. Players appreciate the leadership. So second pretty significant contract to bring Min-Jae Kim on board. So we've upgraded at shortstop, we've upgraded at catcher, and guess we can check in now on Mr. Strider. He hasn't signed with anybody yet, so maybe he is trying to bluff us. He's trying to bluff us. He's thinking that he's got a pretty strong hand because he now says he wants almost $20 million a year. So at that level, for a 30-year-old who's fragile, who missed all of last season, I think we are officially moving on from our flirtation with Spencer Strider. So I think we're kind of done with our big moves in free agency, and they were obviously two significant ones with Wakabayashi and Kim coming on board. Wakabayashi going to make almost as much next year as Kim will make over the 4 years of his contract. Strider is still out there. Obviously, we know that the pitcher, Kim, has already signed, and it does look like Crochet is locked up somewhere as well. We'll see what he ended up getting. Signed with the Houston Astros, less money than he was looking for, $39.5 million a year over 7 years. Strider is trying to convince us that the Astros are going to pay him as well, so he definitely may be bluffing about that. But at this point, I think I'm willing to let things play out with Mr. Strider from a more passive perspective. And Jacob deGrom has officially signed, so our one-year rental who pitched just 8 games for us is back with the Mets. $17.4 million for next year, and fan interest takes another 4-point hit. So the fans are not pleased, and you can see we are set despite having made 2 huge acquisitions this offseason, and despite having had the best record in baseball last year. If we keep ticket prices where they were last year, we're going to sell about 3,000 fewer season tickets and have almost 10,000 fewer people attending our games. But my hope is that we'll have a very competitive team, and hopefully the fans will be interested in that at some point. But definitely feels like we are going in the wrong direction as far as a team that the fans want to watch, which, given that we moved on from Royce Lewis and Jacob deGrom, and we brought up over a guy who looks like he could be generational in Wakabayashi, as well as a really good catcher who's a proven commodity at the highest professional levels, even though he hasn't played in Major League Baseball. Definitely doesn't seem like the fans in Los Angeles are giving us much leeway or grace in terms of their willingness to watch us on the field. And we're closing in on the start of the IAFA signing period, which is tomorrow, which is when we'll finish this episode and open things up to the Worldwide Scouting Department for any thoughts on what we might want to do. Financial update, no change to our budget, and Spencer Strider did just sign with the Mets. He got what he was looking for, almost $20 million for 1 year. So Steve Cohen still willing to spend, trying to turn the Mets around, taking a big pitcher from a division rival. And with our more recent success, we are unfortunately down to being able to spend just $4.75 million. I guess that's really a good thing because it means that we've got a big budget and we've started to get more successful on the field than we were in the earlier stages of this playthrough. But certainly not going to have only money to offer people. We'll talk through about 10 or 11 of the top prospects that we've been looking at. Closer Ivan Hermosillo, 17-year-old out of Mexico. Definitely looks like a bullpen guy with 2 pitches and 30 stamina, but think he could be a useful bullpen arm if he met his full potential. I don't think he's going to be a major focus of ours, but if our $4.75 million isn't enough to sign a core guy that we are going after, Hermosillo could be a guy that we use with some others as a fallback option. Pablo Alvarado, another reliever, similar situation, a little more stamina, but still a 2-pitch guy if that changeup develops. I think his stuff and his movement could both be above average, control a bit above average a bit below average for the lefty. 2 higher end prospects, another reliever, Pedro Hernandez, not looking for a ton of money. I think he's got a potentially devastating fastball slider combination, but the 16-year-old is already fragile in terms of his physical proneness. Says he's financially ambitious, but only looking for $250,000, so maybe something works out with him down the line. Top pitching prospect, Danny Hernandez, durable 16-year-old, high adaptability, think he can throw in the high 90s, really good stamina, fine at holding on runners, potential 3 or 4 pitch arsenal. And I think his stuff and his movement could both be a little bit above average, his control about average. Don't know that I'm in love with him, but I think he is certainly the most interesting prospect out there, but tend to think I will be leaning towards a position player. But we'll see what the Worldwide Scouting Department thinks about that. Talk about a bunch of guys that we've had off and on in our training camps to get to high and very high scouting accuracy on them, starting with Edmund Morales, looking for $1.8 million. Center fielder, looks more like a corner outfielder, some positive personality traits with a high leadership, work ethic, and baseball IQ, although he does have low adaptability. Looks like a pretty decent contact hitter, average-ish everywhere else. More of a fallback option to me, I think, than someone I'd use as a prime focus. Jacques Fioroli, first baseman, potentially excellent power, but at 6 feet tall with pretty meh defensive ratings and pretty meh speed. Probably not going to be the primary guy we go after. If he is, it's a really disappointing class. Jesus Recio, center fielder, pretty solid glove, high adaptability and work ethic. Really like the speed, some decent base running instincts. Looks like a really good contact hitter, really good gap power if he reaches his full development. Power and eye a little more average-ish, but certainly Recio, out of the guys we've looked at so far for $3 million, is the most interesting to me. Cristobal Pavia, another center fielder, not quite as good defensively, not quite as good with the personality. Contact a little bit better, but the gap power and the speed lower. for a very similar price tag. Think I prefer Rezio. Right fielder Alex Martinez, pretty well balanced bat. Looks like a corner outfielder. Decent base running instincts, decent bunter, and good contact hitter, good eye, good gap power. The home run power kind of average-ish. Would say that Martinez, along with Rezio, are probably my two favorites so far, but we've got four very highly regarded guys, at least in terms of their ceilings, to talk about. Catcher Alex Garcia, looks like an average-ish glove. Great contact hitter, kind of meh at everything else. Mixed personality, not a ton of speed. Probably not as interested in him as I am in Martinez or Rezio right now. Shortstop Gregorio Sanacci. Looks like a competent defensive infielder and a pretty well-balanced bat. Definitely an interesting player. Older prospect at almost 18 years old. High adaptability, high loyalty. I'd put him on the short list from this initial review with Martinez and Rezio. But then there's the two highest ceiling prospects out there, at least according to our scout. Third baseman Jose Padilla. Like the high adaptability and work ethic. Looks like a third baseman's glove, and not necessarily a great third baseman's glove, but one that we hope could be competent down the line. Not a ton of speed. It's all about the incredible home run power to him. I think he's going to strike out a ton, draw average-ish number of walks, struggle to hit for average. I know some of the worldwide scouting department is more intrigued by a high home run profile like this than I am. I tend to think Padilla is probably not the path I'm going to head down. Center fielder Bruce Gonzalez, though, last but not least, high adaptability and work ethic, good outfield range, medium development risk, and a very well-balanced bat. He's durable. We think the contact could be above average and think the gap power, the home run power, and the eye could all be exceptional. Nickname OT. My initial thoughts, and these obviously will be refined as I spend more time offline looking at these guys in more detail and strategizing, and also taking any feedback that the worldwide scouting department provides to me, is that tend to think Gonzalez is the strongest prospect, but Sanacci, Martinez, and Rezio all likely in the mix for me. They're all kind of looking for between $2.8 and $3.2 million, so a similar price point. But I think that I agree with the scouting report we got from our scout that Gonzalez had the highest ceiling. But to be fair, it's the scout who's telling me that he's got the highest ceiling, so I would expect his scouting report to say that. But initial view is that I think Gonzalez is probably the way that I will go. Could definitely be convinced about Sanacci, Martinez, or Rezio, and open to feedback on anybody else as well. But been a very interesting free agent period so far. Wakabayashi and Kim, two very significant additions. Wakabayashi hopefully helps both the offense and defensively. Kim, as we've talked about, maybe a little bit of a regression defensively, but potentially very good bat against right-handed pitching in particular, so happy to have him on board. And if you've got any thoughts on what we should do in the IAFA period, always helpful for me to hear them. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.